He struck the butt of the rifle with extreme force. As a result, the number 11 appeared on the monitor. Qian Xiangdong was very pleased with himself because he had surpassed his opponent's previous score. Zhou praised him, and then he began to look at the force measuring device thoughtfully. Xiangdong asked him what he was looking at. If it's hard for him to continue the competition, let him say so. After all, there is absolutely no shame in losing to someone like him. Zhou only asked if the school would make him pay if he destroyed the force meter. Qian Xiangdong replied that if one actually destroyed the meter, he would pay the school for it himself. Then Zhou said that this calmed him down, and now he was ready to strike at him. So he prepared himself well. Everyone was waiting, even teacher Kubai A, who was peering through the doorway. Qian Xiangdong himself thought that Zhou was playing a fool, because this device was designed to measure strength. And although it is a rather old model with a limit of only 20 units, there are only a few high school students who can beat the maximum value of it. And there are even fewer who can break it. Meanwhile, Zhou Wen curled his fingers into a fist and prepared to deliver a punch so powerful that everyone's mouths dropped open. When intended to use the spiritual power skill, the blow was struck. It was something never seen before. The device stuck, and the image disappeared from the monitor. No one expected such a powerful blow from the man. Everyone who saw this picture watched Zhou's actions in amazement. Teacher Kubai A could not believe his eyes, and Qian Xiangdong was smiling with delight. The teacher knew that the limit of the school's power meter was 20 units, but that didn't mean it could only withstand that value. It takes a spiritual power skill of at least level 8 or 9 to break the device. Kubai A immediately recalled the words of the former headmaster Wu Jie about the two types of geniuses, namely that the first type was Zhou Wen, and the second type was everyone else. Now he understood what the former headmaster meant. Zhou turned to Qian Xiangdong and asked him if he was serious about paying for everything if he broke the measuring device. Qian just patted him on the shoulder in amazement and said that he would definitely pay for everything. They had been classmates for a long time, and now they were on the same team, so Zhou shouldn't worry about relying on him. And Fan Joshi was only pleased to note that Zhou Wen was even more interesting than she had thought when she invited him to the team. It was starting to get dark, so his classmates decided to go home. Zhou Wen also walked home thinking about the events of that day. Usually, people who have received the legendary class consider it beneath their dignity to even stand next to mortals. But Anjing, on her own initiative, challenged them, a mortal student. Zhou Wen had never traveled outside of Wu County in his life, so how could he possibly have pissed her off? Such thoughts swarmed in his mind. Zhou's thoughts were interrupted by a phone call. It was his father calling to ask if his son was coming to his wedding. Wen was quite surprised by this question. He didn't even know that his father was getting married, and he didn't know who he was marrying. The father lightly said that he had sent his son a photo of his fiancée. A few seconds later, his father sent a photo and asked Zhou what his new mother looked like. Her name is Ouyang. Zhou simply asked when and where the wedding ceremony would take place. The father replied that it would take place in Luoyang in about a week. The son said he had a skills test in a week, so he couldn't go even if he wanted to. Wen then asked his father if he had seen a metal cookie box in his dressing room, but his father didn't know what he was talking about. Zhou explained that it was a square iron box, each side of which was about 30 centimeters long, with a cartoon bear painted on it. My father said it was a box of cookies he used to eat as a child, but the cookies of this brand are no longer available, so most likely this box has been there for a long time. And he asked why his son was suddenly interested in it. Zhou said that there was a phone in that box. He wondered if his father had put it there. The father began to remember something. He asked his son if the phone had a white body, a black screen, no button, and was about 17 to 20 centimeters long. Zhou felt himself getting very worried and told his father that this was the phone he was asking about. Then the father replied that the phone belonged to Zhou's grandfather. If his son hadn't asked him about it, he wouldn't have even remembered. Zhou now began to inquire even more diligently about where his grandfather had gotten the treasure. Then my father told me that Zhou's grandfather was a carpenter. During the restoration of the old city of Yuzhou, he had to repair a lot of ancient wooden structures. So he worked there for over a year. One day, they dug a dried-up well on the construction site. It was deep in the night. Only a few people stayed to work overtime, There was a subtle glow coming out of that well. All the workers thought they had found